call to order the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 Board of Education meeting. Please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Sure. Mrs. Black? Here. Ms. Janet Doyle? Here. Mr. Luchetti?
Here.
Mr. Lulo?
Here.
Mr. Janet? Mr. Costick?
Here.
Mr. Kirky?
Here. Thank you. Welcome everyone for joining us tonight. We have no one signed up for public comment, so we will move right into the consent agenda.
Yes, I'm sorry. I will.
All right, consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the items listed there: approval of the minutes from September 21st, 2017 meeting, approval of the closed session minutes from September 21st, 2017 meeting, approval of the minutes from the October 5th, 2017 meeting, approval of the closed session minutes from the October 5th, 2017 meeting, approval of the 210 advisory minutes from September 11th, 2017, approval of payroll of October 5th, 2017, and out-of-state travel. Does anyone wish any of these pulled and discussed separately? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second.
Okay. The online voting is open. Oh.
Does it pop up?
Here we go. I'm sorry.
Did you join the meeting when you came, like, the button during the meeting when you logged in?
You vote on?
Yes, I'm gonna close out and reset it.
Verbally. vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said
Thank
yes,
you.
I apologize.
The vote is closed. All in favor?
Thank you. All right, next we have our student council presidents. Why don't we start with Bazak?
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I'd like to apologize for my congestion, and if you're unable to understand me, I'm a little under the weather lately. So going into the second quarter, we've got a lot going on at West. Our theater department's production of Leaving Iowa, our fall play, is actually starting their opening night right now. And we have our other production Saturday night at 7 p.m. as well. This week, we've had a lot of senior nights. Some of our sports programs are honoring their seniors, and we will honor even more seniors this Friday night at our last home game of the regular season. The theme is Country Night, so we have been appropriately selling t-shirts, crew necks, and hoodies at lunch. This week is also College Changes Everything Week. PPS has been organizing a variety of events for our students. We had presentations during advisories for college-bound seniors on Tuesday. Today we had a raffle at lunch with a questionnaire and prizes to hand out. Eastern Illinois University is actually doing interviews tomorrow at school and making on-site admissions decisions, and we've had plenty of other reps visiting with students going to talk to them as well. Meanwhile, the freshmen started off their candy sale earlier this month, and all proceeds for that will be going towards their prom and class gift when 2021 comes around. For clubs and activities, FBLA students attended the annual business etiquette dinner at Gatto's right here in New Lenox earlier this week. The Haunted Lab for the Science Club is being prepared currently for their annual Halloween festivities. The Art Club also heard tips from a professional makeup artist earlier this week on Wednesday as they were preparing for their own Halloween festivities. And finally, Pennies for Patients. We are preparing for our annual Pennies for Patients campaign that will begin on Monday. Students and staff will be raising money to donate to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We also made a $2,000 donation from the proceeds we earned from the Homecoming Olympic registration, and it's all part of our Make a Difference Day efforts.
Congratulations. Well done. All right, next, Anna.
All right, this past week, Lincoln Way East student Kendall Pitlick was named to the All-American marching band recognition, and she's going to perform in the 2018 U.S. Army All-American Bowl. In addition, senior Devin O'Rourke was named to the 2018 Under Armour All-American Game. That's going to be held January 4th, 2018 at the Rose Bowl in Orlando. This past week we had a congratulatory ceremony where he was presented with his jersey. Only 100 players in the nation received this honor, so we wanted to congratulate Devin. Over 300 students were recently inducted into our National Honor Society. Mr. McClish delivered a great keynote speech to our members as he was awarded with the prestigious NHS Faculty Award, voted on by members of the organization. We currently have a sock drive going on for Socktober that is being organized by our American Sign Language Club. Donations are being accepted all this week and they'll be given to the less fortunate. On November 6th, our FBLA Club is hosting its annual blood drive, and given the recent events in Las Vegas, it's been brought to light that there's a shortage of blood available at local blood banks in case of emergencies. So FBLA is looking to have its most successful drive yet. Student Council has begun planning our annual Silver Turkey Food Drive. In the past, this has been one of our most successful events, as last year nearly 5,000 non-perishable food items were donated to the Frankfort Township Food Pantry, and that's going to be held November 13th through the 17th. Our varsity football team continues its amazing season as it ends the regular season on this Friday against Bolingbrook. Our football team is ranked first in the state and 19th in the nation according to USA Today magazine. So expectations are high as we move into the playoffs. We wanted to wish good luck to East tennis players Erin Klein, Claire Steck, Mackenzie Helsel, and Cassie Weicker as they traveled today to the IHSA State Championship. In addition, we wanted to congratulate LWMB on their first place finish in the Class 6A. So things have been going great at East, and we're very excited to be moving into the second quarter strong as ever.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nick Finn. I'm the vice president here at Central. Michelle is playing for conference right now. It's senior night, so she couldn't make it, so I'm filling in for her. The main items on our agenda right now are freshman class officer elections and Halloween night. This week, all freshmen have the opportunity to vote for their freshman class officers via Skyward. To ensure a positive turnout, our freshman reading teachers have helped us to publicize the elections, and winners will be announced next week. Additionally, Halloween night is next Saturday, October 28th from 10 to 1. Halloween night is a community event for kids up to age 11. Instead of walking the streets, they get to come and trick-or-treat through the halls of Lincoln Way Central and attend the fun fair afterwards, hosted by Student Council in the AP room. We anticipate collecting somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 canned goods, which will be donated to the New Lenox Food Pantry, as a non-perishable food item is the entrance fee for our event. This year, we have a record number of clubs and sports participating at about 40, who have signed up to decorate doors and hand out candy around the building. Also, along with the many clubs and sports participating, we have a balloon artist coming in and Halloween movies to watch at the fun fair for all the kids. Thanks.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you. All three of you. Great stuff. Uriah.
For our curriculum update tonight, we have the English department chairs, and I will tell you very quickly, when I was hired here in 1986 as an English teacher, I was told two things. You will have discipline in your classroom, and you will teach writing like crazy. And we've been doing that well before I was here, and I'm sure it's going to continue. So I'd like to introduce you to Mrs. Mary Hilbert, Dr. Renee Goldie, and Mrs. Sandy Rogina.
Thank you very much for having us here this evening. I know I can speak on behalf of both Renee and Mary. We're really proud of our department, and I think that we're very thrilled with some of the things that we've been doing and some of the things that we have planned for the future. So a strong department, I think, really needs a strong philosophy. And so if we look at our philosophy, we believe that students really need to be able to make informed choices. So we help them to understand, present, and evaluate, and look at a variety of different opinions. We also believe that students should function as individuals and as members of groups. And you'll see that reflected in our instruction in the classroom. As Tim mentioned, what we're probably best known for and what we're most proud of is our writing process. So we really work very diligently to help our students develop their own writing style and their own voice. So communication, especially written communication, is really the heart of what we do, and we know that what we do works. We've been very fortunate to hear from former students. Ironically enough, they're not necessarily English majors, they're not necessarily English teachers. So take Andrew, for instance, from the class of 2008. Right now, he's working as a choir director, but as you can see, he's been complimented over and over again on his ability to communicate. And he really attributes that to some of the things he learned at Lincoln Way. Our writing intensive curriculum is tiered so that students can enroll in classes that suit their ability levels. So as we keep talking about our skills-based curriculum, we do have a writing goal for each level. So our goal for English 1 is really to build that solid foundation, because we know that's something that kids will need every year in English and beyond. So in English 2 then, we continue to build on that solid foundation, and yet we continue to add diverse topics, more complex writing prompts, longer papers, so that we really have the students demonstrate their critical thinking. English 3 then, that all-important year, we refine the skills, and then of course we really need to work on preparing our students for the standardized test that they need to take that year. And then English 4, we're really helping them find their voice and then preparing them for life after Lincoln Way. So as you can see, our focus is really skill development. And Renee will talk about this a little more in just a few minutes. But I think overall, this is what we're hearing from our students. And this is from Angelina, who just graduated in 2017. And it really mirrors what we've heard over and over the years, that our students are prepared. And I love the comment that they're trying to pay me to look at their essays. But that's what we want to do, is make sure that they are prepared as they leave us for their future. Okay, so Renee's going to talk a little bit about our skills-based curriculum and how that translates to some of our test prep.
Good evening. As Sandy said, unfortunately, we realize that the only thing we're not only preparing our students for standardized tests, but those are a reality for our students. And so that becomes something that we think is very important that we prepare them for. As teachers in English, we want to make, am I going the wrong way? As teachers in English, we teach the skills that are tested on this test every single day. And the teachers do it through the literature that we teach or the nonfiction that we bring forward in the classroom as well. However, one of the easiest things that we need to do is we simply need to point out to the students these are the same skills and show them what it looks like in a different format. You'll see our teachers doing this in the classroom every day, from freshman year through senior year. We're still showing these skills to the students through bell ringers, vocabulary and context of what we do, passage analysis, and of course writing prompts. Junior year, we go really heavy on both argument and analysis, and the prompts that you'll see in the classrooms mimic the prompts that are given on the ACT and the FAT. Additionally to what's done in the classroom is we have at each of the high schools different variations of test prep programs. So you'll see what I'm going to talk about tonight. Of course, I'm going to use the example that we use at East, but something very similar is done, but just with its own twist at each of the buildings. What we do at East is we have a whole program. I'm not the only one who does it. We offer students to come in during their advisories for the whole month of February. And each day of the week, I think last year I got Wednesdays, the students would come in and I would give a half-hour lesson on something. And the way that we approach this is we would start out by simply talking about the skill. So if you're paying, please pay close attention because you will be quizzed on this when we get to the end here. So Ms. Stone, if we can arrange a vote that I can get on our record, that would be fabulous. Here we talk about colons. I give them a brief little lesson on colons. My favorite thing about colons, and so students will remember, I say, they're two dots. They're the same thing. And what you can remember about colons is what you see preceding the colon and what comes after the colon is the same thing. My favorite type of pizzas are, and then you list what's after. It's my favorite type of pizza. It's just said in a different way. Right? So we give them hints like that as we go through, of course giving them the beautiful English rules as they are. We'll also talk about semicolons. With that, you have the dot, but then you also have the comma. The comma is similar to a conjunction, so of course you can use it to separate independent clauses, or even though number 2 isn't really seen on the ACT or SAT, it's still a rule and we can't pass that up, just because that's simply who we are. So then after that, what we do is we show them, here's the skill, and this is what it looks like on the ACT or the SAT. What's the difference? What are they looking for? How are they going to test you? Both tests test them on semicolons and colons through passage analysis. So something will be underlined and they have to see if they can correct it. This is what's coming. I hope you're ready for it. When we see here the difference between it tested on the ACT and the SAT, is the ACT is simply going to throw semicolons all over the test. They're going to keep putting them on there because they think the kids don't know how to use them and they're right, but not our kids. The SAT will not only throw semicolons, but they'll throw other punctuation in as well. They'll try to confuse them with even more than the ACT does. So we do this, and then we go through tonight. Don't worry, there's only 2 questions for you this evening, but then we go through for the remainder of the half hour examples from old ACT and SAT passages. So in here, if you could study this question for a little bit and think of what your answer would be. Some of you appear more confident than others simply by looking at your face. I won't call you out. The correct answer on this one, oh my goodness, is no change. Is no change. And so this is what ACT likes to do. They put them on there. And most of the times the ACT puts them on there, they're not right. They're not the correct answer choice. So that's something we get to give them. Then, of course, the SAT, I give them a look at that. It's a little bit different. You'll notice in the answer choices here, you're also going to see semicolons and colons. So for those students who are taking the test who say, oh, it's a fancy piece of punctuation, I'm going to pick it because it must be right, and I don't know how to use it, they've got lots of choices on the fun, fancy punctuation to use. So this, for you, the correct answer on that one was actually a colon. For that, that's the test prep program, something that students can come in to get extra instruction. I think my general PowerPoint for that is something like 182 slides, but it's the whole month of February. Every Wednesday you can come in and get that review. Another one of the things that we use with the students that we can further prepare them for this test, but also work on the grammar skills they're going to need in their writing, is an online program called No Red Ink. The teachers love this program because they can utilize it to pre-assess skills, get data, track progress. They like the ease of that. The students love it because when they first go into the program, they take an interest survey. And so all of the examples that come through the program puts it in the context of things they like. If they're an NFL fan, they'll enter in names of their players, and so then you get grammar examples with the names of their players. For a while, we had a lot of Harry Potter sentences coming up. It just depends on their interests. So they like that. What Sandy, Mary, and I like about this is No Red Ink is directly connected to and aligned. All of the skills that are on there are on the ACT and the SAT. I, as a teacher, can give my students a practice test, find out what their weak areas are, and assign them those units on No Red Ink to help them prepare more for the test. As a teacher, this is what they would look at. They'd see a page where they can select the actual skill. This is just active and passive voice, and it's not even all of it. So you can break it down very specifically. If you've noticed the little P's there that are in gold, that is for the premium subscription, and that's what you pay for, and we do, and we wanted to let you know that this is a very good investment for us because we're able to take our students that much further to prepare them. As a teacher, this is something that I set up for my class last year. I create an initial quiz, a pre-test, I see the student performance on it, I have some practice on there if they didn't do so well, and then I have a final quiz. If the students do well on the first one, then they don't have to take the final one. So there's a lot of motivation there. Excitement about grammar, which is what we like. And then I can as well track their progress throughout there. As a student, this is what they see. They log in and they get to see exactly what it is I've assigned them, when it is due. They can work on this either at school or at home. This is an example of something a student would see. They obviously picked Lion King for this one as one of their interests. So we see Nala was overjoyed when 9/10 of her friends were able to come to her birthday party. They submit an answer. Sometimes they type answers in. Sometimes they move things around in the sentence. Other times they highlight parts of speech that come with it. With that then, if they need remediation, it takes them through and defines mastery and shows them the skills that build up to the skill that they missed. And so we find this one very helpful for us. I teach primarily seniors, so not necessarily focused on text prep, but I want people using proper grammar in this world. And so the units that I assign to my students are things they need to review so they can go out and become a literate student in the world. We did hear back from one of our students, and I thought this one was appropriate. She was in a writing class, and they were peer editing, and she just said, oh my goodness, I felt that it was like reading one run-on sentence for 5 pages. What they learn, not just in their writing style, but in their basic grammar, is a huge help from the resources that we have here. Mary's going to talk to you a little bit more now about another program as well as a course that.
So many, the majority of our students do look at colleges and universities as their plan for when they leave Lincoln Way. And we offer some college credit opportunities while they're still here. We offer 2 AP courses, one at the junior level and one at the senior level, AP Language and AP Literature. When students earn a 3 or higher, they earn that college credit at no cost to them other than the cost to take the test. We also offer a dual credit course. We call it College Writing at JJC. The same course is offered. It's English 101 and English 102. The curriculum is exactly the same. Our teachers who teach college writing are considered adjunct faculty members of JJC as well. So those teachers get the syllabus from JJC and they instruct the course so that that credit will transfer to any institution that would accept junior college credit. So it's great that some of our students can leave with, 3, 6, 9 credit hours in just our content area before they even start their freshman year. We work a lot on skill development to prepare them for collegiate level thinking. So especially in our junior and senior levels, writing for a variety of purposes and audiences, developing a personal style and voice, and of course that being able to edit your own writing, because if your roommate in college is not the same major as you, they probably don't have the same assignments as you, the same professors, and so gaining that ability to edit your own work and be your own best editor is something we work on. So another program that we are so fortunate to have is Turnitin.com. We've had this program for a long time, but Turnitin.com has continued to add features that benefit our students through the type of feedback they're able to get. So I want to walk you through a few of these things and what they look like in the actual program. The thing that it's known for is to help foster academic integrity so that when students present work as their own, it genuinely is their own. And if it's not, it puts up a red flag. So this particular essay is a 100% match to an essay that was also submitted to Lincoln Way. And so that allows the teacher to have a conversation with that student about how that match might have occurred. This would be a more appropriate level of matching. 11% would be quotes that they found from valid sources. You can see 1% for most of those sources, and in all likelihood, they're, like in that number 1 that's indicated there, it's a direct quote from a valid source. And so it allows both the teacher and the student to have a conversation about how they're sourcing their material. It also allows students to have a digital online portfolio. I know it may be hard to believe, but some of our students are not the pinnacle of organization. And so when you want to tell a student, look back at the comments on your last essay before you submit the next essay, so we can continue to work on that growth mindset. It's all digitally saved for them. They can go back and see teacher-made comments, peer marks, how does their first draft compare to their second draft or their final draft. and it's all saved to that one digital space for them. It also allows teachers to grade through the online program. That way students can access those comments at any time. So it allows an online dialogue with the students as well in a way that the students can re-reference over and over again. There's also a function called peer mark, which will assign one student another student's essay, and the teacher can put in questions they specifically want the students to answer about another student's piece of writing. And so that's where we're getting that critical thinking about how do you evaluate writing. You can assign a student to evaluate their own essay through peer mark so that we can target exactly what we want them looking for in terms of revision. So Mark Misha graduated a couple years ago. He is studying at the New England Conservatory of Music, and he actually, because of the preparation, he became a writing minor. And so you don't often think of that combination of, elite music performance with a writing minor, but he said he wants to be able to pursue music internationally, and so that ability to have that strong writing foundation has now led him to a writing minor. Well, thank you for inviting us to present today, and thank you for all that you do for us in terms of the programs that you help us to provide to our students.
Thank you.
I can't quite let Sandy go, so if you'll come on up here. Sandy's retiring at the end of the year and has served the district really, really well as a leader, so make the gun.
Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you again, ladies. Appreciate it. Next, we're on to our action items. First action item is the presentation of invoices for September 2017.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $1,164,924.49 dated October 19th, 2017.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the invoices? Hearing none.
The online voting is open.
Did it work?
Yeah, it worked.
The vote is unanimous. The motion is passed.
Great, thank you. Next, we have the treasurer's report for 2017. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Brad.
Yes, thank you. So you'll notice in tonight's packets, we've reformatted the report for the board request. I hope you found it to meet your needs. Excuse me. For September 30th, 2017, the district recognized revenue of $25,782,893 and expended $7,063,110. Total cash balance at the end of the month was $26,605,902.89. Total fund balance at the end of the month was $19,241,306.32. Excuse me. We prepared several analysis there for you, which we'd entertain any questions. Also attached is the treasurer's report and the updated working cash flow report.
So on the property taxes, do we have an idea of what we're expecting to flow over into October? What the amount is?
Oh, because we're running. So with the property taxes, we are running just a little bit behind, but we expect, by the end of the year to be collecting our kind of normal, if you will, The distributions, they used to do 2 a month, and then they switched to 1 a month, and then, but in September of last year, they had 2. This year, we just had the 1. So, I mean, I've detailed out what we think we're getting in the cash flow for each of the individual months for the property taxes. So for example, October, this is actually a known number. We received $8.1 million for the first part of October. We're looking at November then, dropping off substantially to 1.5, and then, you know, kind of rounding out. So as you know, we're collecting the last of the 2016 taxes. So we're just collecting the balance remaining. We'll begin collecting 2017 in June. Well, May, June.
The expenditures in the education fund, in like non-capital equipment, purchase services, where we're now 25% of the way through the year, and those are up at, you know, we've expended 49% of our budget in non-capital equipment, and about like 38% in tuition and purchase services. The tuition one was explained in the memo as
right.
But the other two, I mean, what's in non-capital equipment? What would be fall under that category?
So this is a new category, as dictated with, well, it's in the ISBE Illinois Program Accounting Manual. This was set up a few years ago, but of course in our 2016 audit, our auditors brought it to the attention that we were not using the 700 object, which is non-capital equipment. Non-capital equipment would be any equipment that's purchased that's less than our $5,000 capitalized asset threshold. So since it is a new category, and actually with capital or non-capital, you would expect the expenditures to be front-loaded. You're looking for people who are going to purchase something that's going to be used for multiple years. You want them to get that, get it in place, and start using it. So being at 49% is not a concern at all. We'd expect to be there as they get that piece of equipment to be used in the district.
Greg, did you get clarification on non-capital equipment? Is it if it's in bulk or is it per item?
Actually, the auditors kind of left that to board policy and our interpretation. So the question is this. Say you're buying 30 laptops, whatever. Each laptop may be $500. Well, is that laptop a non-capital item, or is the group of laptops then capitalized? Really, that would be up to the district. As we work through our capitalization, we'll address that. Right now, auditors kind of said, well, it's up to you how you want to handle that. So,
in your experience with that situation that you just went through, what have you
my
seen?
experience would be is historically what I've seen is that would be capitalized. So even though an individual item might be below the threshold, if it's something you buy in bulk, like computers, we would go ahead and capitalize that block of computers and then depreciate them off.
What falls under other local revenue and operations and maintenance?
Okay, under operations and maintenance, the biggest thing under the other local would be our parking fees and impact fees.
So those are collected at the beginning of the school year?
Yes.
And then in the capital projects fund, where we only had charged through about $770,000 in capital outlay for capital projects,
Right.
wasn't most of that work done
Yeah.
in summer? So
Right, so I'll follow up with Rich, right, to see, we should probably waiting for last minute finalized bill, whatever. You're right, we expect to expend most of that here shortly.
okay, so that's just bills have that are still
Right,
outstanding.
the architect's got to go through, make sure the punch list, clear everything off, and then get it in, and then we pay it, but, yeah.
But that, you would expect that, all that 1.6 million is pretty much been expended.
Exactly.
I did have one question then on the treasurer's report, this one here.
Mm-hmm.
So O&M had the footnote, $4 million outstanding in tax anticipation warrants due 10/2/2017. Were these paid in the first?
Yeah, the tax anticipation warrants were paid on the 2nd, yep. So,
And I think we're going to be talking about the working cash fund. Was the 2016 loan paid off as well?
right, so that's just an internal transfer, so we'll be recording that in the month of October, and then then we'll actually ask the board to reloan that, which is on tonight's agenda.
And then were the last of the tax anticipation warrants intercepted or
Well, actually,
whatever the term is?
Right, so it's talking about the direct intercept
Yeah.
for the escrow account. We still have outstanding $650,000 because it just, the way it worked out, the intercepts were just not quite enough. So we will actually make a final payment on October 30th to finish paying them off.
I think it was also helpful that you added this, the total line for the operating funds on the treasurer's report.
Okay.
Appreciate you moving with the feedback, because it was a lot easier to follow.
So if there's any other feedback or things you want to see improved or changed, just let us know. We'll be glad to work on it.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions for Brad? Now we have a motion and a second.
The vote is open. Would you like to just have a verbal vote?
Yeah,
The vote is closed, the vote is unanimous, the motion is passed.
Thank you. Next are the student activities report for September 2017. I'll entertain a motion to accept the student activities report as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, discussions, presentations?
I'd like to highlight, and then Kelly can answer any questions you might have. We are requesting for board approval for the following new activity accounts. It would be the Chorale Travel Central, Guitar Studio East. These accounts are needed to manage fundraising expenditures for those activities. Requested that a separate account be set up for choral travel so that the travel funds aren't commingled with the regular chorus club funds and can be more easily tracked. Guitar Studio East account was closed last year and combined with the band club, but it's requested that it be reopened so that one can be tracked separately. So this is something that Kelly spent a lot of time on last year, getting the student activities cleaned up so we could kind of start all over and then be consistent moving forward. So if anyone has any questions, I'm sure she'll be able to answer.
So are these, when you say consistent, are they consistent across the campuses, or is this just what the activity directors want?
Go ahead, Kelly, and kind of explain that for us.
Central has the Guitar Studio account. When we went through everything last year, it was determined that, East, it would be fine to have it combined with, I believe it was the band account, yeah. And so just with the start of the school year, and I think there's different sponsors managing that money, so they just requested that it be separated again.
So 2 out of the 3 now have guitar.
Right.
Any other questions? No? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
The online vote is open. The The vote is unanimous, the motion passed.
Thank you. Next, we have our personnel reports.
All right, under employment, Christy Danielewitz has accepted a position as a paraprofessional. Dan Galligan has accepted a position as head boys bowling coach at Lincoln Way East. Janine Kukta has accepted a position of financial secretary at Lincoln Way East. Sam Casego has accepted a position as the sponsor for the Future Farmers of America at Lincoln Way East. Tom Ritchie has accepted a maintenance position. Sheila Sheehan has accepted a cafeteria position, and Patricia Snakasny has accepted the accounts payable clerk position. I ask the board to approve these employment recommendations as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve the report as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional questions at this time?
Can you give us a little, we have a financial secretary at East. Do we have financial secretaries at all the schools? And then what's the difference with them? We have the accounts payable clerks. So can you give us a little flavor? It seems like we have a title.
Yeah, we got a lot of people out there. We do have financial secretaries at each one of our buildings that they handle the day-to-day money that flows through. For example, our cafeterias, a lot of cash changes hands. Financial secretaries also assist in a lot of the activity sponsors, as you just went over the student activities report, help them with their deposits and making sure money gets to the right places. Accounts payable, it is what it is, that they pay our bills, to give it the most simplest terms. So we filled all those spots, and I think right now our business office is fully staffed.
Okay.
If not, we have a motion and a second.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Under resignations, John Terry has resigned his position as the head badminton coach at Lincoln Way East, and Laura Vladika has resigned from her position as permanent substitute in the district. Under leaves, Elizabeth Highland is requesting a 6-week FMLA leave at the conclusion of her maternity leave. I ask the board to approve these personnel recommendations as presented.
Motion to accept the resignation and leave report is presented.
So moved.
There's a motion. Second. Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Next, working cash loan resolution.
Mr. Kaufman, would you like to go ahead and give an overview of the working cash loan?
Absolutely.
Prior to the motion, please.
Absolutely. With the payoff of the current loan that's outstanding of $1.8 million, this will give us the opportunity, if the board so approves, to transfer the money back from the working cash to the ed fund, which will ultimately reduce the amount of tax anticipation warrants the district would need to borrow. So it's a good way to offset our tax anticipation. It is allowed by school code, and so attached for your review and passage would be the working cash loan resolution 2018-05 for $2 million, given the fact that we've collected more taxes into that fund since the last year.
Just, my question was just, so section 6 goes into reimbursement. What's the date that this has to be paid back by? Is it October 31st?
So it has to be paid back within 1 year, and we've specified that it be paid back with the 2017 taxes. So just like this last loan that was taken out, or the $1.8 million, when we collected up the 2016 taxes, then it is being transferred back to the working cash fund and then this loan would then be taken out.
So the period prescribed by law is 1 year.
1 year.
Anyone else? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second? Second. Motion and a second. Any additional questions regarding the resolution authorizing a loan from working cash fund to the educational fund? If not, call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Brad. Next is review of the financial condition of the district. The next item for discussion will be the proposed issuance of the district's educational purpose tax anticipation warrants. The resolution sets forth the parameters for the issuance of said warrants and sale thereof by designated officials of the district and summarize the pertinent terms of said parameters, including the specific parameters governing the manner of sale, length of maturity, rates of interest, purchase price for said warrants. The resolution provides for the deposit of the district's taxes for the educational fund purposes directly into a designated escrow account to secure said warrants and the execution and delivery of a tax escrow agreement in connection therewith.
Secretary Janik, could you please read the resolution?
Yes. Resolution 2018-06, resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $27 million tax anticipation warrants in anticipation of the collection of taxes levied for the year 2017 by the Board of Education of Lincoln Way Community High School District Number 210, Will and Cook Counties, Illinois, for educational purposes, the sale of said warrants to Old Second National Bank, the deposit of said taxes directly into a designated escrow account, and the execution and delivery of a tax escrow agreement in connection therewith.
All right, you've heard the resolution. I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I want a second. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I just have a question. I know one of the next items on the agenda is extending the due diligence period for the land sale. I know when we crafted this year's budget, it had factored in the close of that in this calendar year. That's looking more and more like it's going to happen sometime in the first or second quarter of next year. I guess my question is, if with that delay of those funds incoming, does that change the need for our borrowing at all?
No. So the resolution, parameters resolution, and I want to just introduce Shelley here from Ice Miller, to our bond counsel. The resolution that you're looking to adopt right now is a resolution to authorize up to $27 million. If you look at the detailed cash flows, which do account for the land sale happening in January now, that's where we have it built in, we would be looking at, we're estimating at $24 million. So if the land sale was postponed for some time, it would just push us closer to that $27 million. So I still feel very comfortable that we'll be fine. Even if the land sale was postponed clear to the end of the year, we would be able to make it through with the $27 million as being authorized tonight.
And as we open this up, we'll have Brad go over a couple of highlights. I just want to take a minute. If we go back 13 or 14 months ago, we were in a different situation regarding our borrowing. Last July, August, and September, we discussed our TAWs with PMA and local lenders. If you remember, the only option at that time was to work with Old Second Bank to borrow $20 million, an amount that we knew would not be enough to cover the shortfall for the entire year. I looked back at last year's September minutes, and we did indicate the need for $25 to $28 million. We ended up borrowing 27. As you know, it was kind of a scramble there at the end. But in addition to not being able to secure the total amount last fall, we had to grant other concessions to secure the funding. The district had to agree to a variable interest rate and a direct intercept, something we had not had to do in the past. There was no discussion of the possibility of tax-exempt status from bond attorneys, the lender, or the district at that time. Just put it very bluntly, we took what we could get last September.
We were great.
And we were grateful, that's right, because we were able to make payroll in October. Also, in referencing the minutes from last year, I recalled the call to Springfield for emergency funding if we were not able to secure a loan from a local lender. Brad Kaufman and Ice Miller have done a fantastic job preparing this year's tax anticipation warrants. There were discussions very early in the process regarding rates, fixed versus variable, and the possibility of issuing the tax-exempt bonds. With that being said, I'll ask Brad to give a couple highlights and then open up for questions that the board may have for Brad or Shelley.
Yeah, some of the highlights I would just want to quickly touch on is, first off, we're asking for authorization for $27 million to be drawn only as needed. So we will update the board every month on the cash flow, and every month tell them, a month in advance what we anticipate seeing the draw be. Next, I think this is important. It's a fixed tax-exempt rate of 1.65%. Last year, we saw a 75 basis increase in the prime rate, which affected our borrowing. So our borrowing last year went from 1.85% to 2.6%. So this fixed rate will allow for some security in case we see other changes in interest rate. Final maturity scheduled for October 30th of 18. And again, we have agreed to the direct intercept for Will and Cook counties. But actually, this turns out to be a good thing for the district, as once the taxes start coming in, we're able to start drawing down and paying back those TAWs in the last few months of the year, which ultimately reduces our interest expense.
Shelley, here, could you tell us a little bit about why they're now tax exempt?
Well, last year, it's possible that because everything was in disarray with the district and due to the last minute nature of the borrowing, because taxable versus tax exempt rates at that time were so close, there was not much difference between the two. Chapman and Cutler was the bond counsel at that time, and in discussions with the district, recommended that the warrants be issued on a taxable basis. This year, because of the early discussions that Dr. Tingley mentioned, we at Ice Miller were able to do some additional due diligence. We were afforded the extra time to review the cash flows. Also, there is a larger disparity between tax exempt versus taxable interest rates, and it made sense, not that it didn't a year ago, but we weren't involved, so I can't speak to that. All I can speak to is how we handled it at Ice Miller. We had the time, we were willing to put in the due diligence to determine that the district would be able to borrow up to $27 million. We had discussions with the bank, and there was just a lot of extra time that was taken, was afforded, and we're able to give a non-qualified tax-exempt opinion.
You have provided the opinion to the district?
I have not, but I did bring a form of our opinion. It's dated, but it is not signed, and I'm happy to provide that to the district. This is what our opinion would look like. It's dated the date of the first draw, which according to Brad, it looks like it would be November 1 for approximately $3 million. And at that time, we would issue our legal opinion to the district as well as to Old Second National Bank.
at that point, the bank would release the funds to the district.
Is there a certain, since they're going to be tax exempt, and you have to, I'm assuming there's some proof of need that you have to provide, is there some process that we need to make sure that we're following in order to keep the tax exempt status?
Well, we've received the cash flow estimates from Brad. So at November 1, there's the authority to issue, to draw down the $3 million. If, in fact, there are additional draws for December 1, January 1, we would simply ask Brad to provide us with updated cash flow estimates. And we would just make sure that everything still, targets that $3 million. If for some reason we don't see a deficit of the $3 million, then we would request that, it be a smaller amount, but I don't see any problem with that.
Shelley, does the bank need to acknowledge your opinion of the tax exempt status?
I don't know what you mean by acknowledge. We provide them with a form of the opinion for review.
Okay.
And, just like anyone on the board or, Brad or Dr. Tingley, you have the ability to comment, ask any questions on the legal opinion. But once the bank has that legal opinion with our signature on it, then they are satisfied
So
at that point.
They do have to at least accept the opinion?
Yes, they rely on bond counsel's legal opinion and will not release funds to the district until they have that.
So this has been, your opinion has been vetted with the bank already?
And we wanted to provide it to you tonight, and we'll be sending it out to them tomorrow for their review.
And you have the internal, I don't know, your internal processes for approving legal opinions?
Yes, only partners can sign the legal opinions. My title is of counsel. Jim Snyder is the partner on this issue, and he will be reviewing everything, and in fact did review everything before it went out for, I think we emailed it out yesterday to Brad and to the bank, and that does not happen until Jim Snyder signs off on it.
Does this cover the whole $27 million, assuming when it's drawn?
Yes, in fact, if you look at the Ray line, it says not to exceed $27 million.
So when you're talking about the cash flow needs, like
Mm-hmm.
$3 million, and you would say, I mean, how does that process work? I mean, so you're signing off a legal opinion right now on $27 million.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier, like if you looked at the cash flows from Brad, you didn't think he needed the initial $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there some sort of oversight of that?
Well, we document everything in our file. If the bank does require something additional, then say a supplemental opinion of some sort discussing the additional draw, that would be something they would make the request of us. We would circulate it to everyone for review before we would provide it to the bank.
So that would be at the bank's direction?
Yes. Yes.
The timing of providing them this opinion will fit the timeline for either a first draw?
I believe so. It's dated November 1. We provided documents to Brad to have the board sign and return to us. And if we can have them back in our office by October 30, that allows us time to review and get everything to the bank that they require in order to fund on November 1.
And I have another question here. I was fascinated by this. Failure to comply with certain district covenants. What kind of covenants are?
There's a tax agreement, tax exemption agreement that we provided to Brad, and he has that. And there are covenants in there having to do with these cash flow estimates, being provided to us, and it's probably 20 or 25 pages of covenants. It has to do with that.
I'll summarize in one sentence. What if it wasn't a tax exempt rate right now? What would the rate be?
Yes, Old Second actually furnished us that. They would be 2.65, I believe.
versus the 1.65, which is what
Right,
we're
actually,
charging.
it was
So
2.75, I'm sorry. So they said it was at our option, we could take either taxable or tax exempt. They would work with us on either way, and with Ice Miller's help, we see that it's prudent for us to do the extra work and get the tax exempt.
I have a question for Brad, maybe. Joe brought up the closing on the land sale being pushed back into January. You said you're still confident that it would close sometime early next year, beginning of 2018, but if for some reason it didn't, it got pushed for whatever reason to July or August of next year, what would that do to the amount we would need to borrow, and then also maybe council could answer the opinions that they would need to issue to the bank?
Well, the first thing would be is we would, if it did postpone, and let's just assume every other assumption in my cash flow would have to come true. Okay, so let's just assume all of that happened, and we find ourselves now needing 28.5 million. So we're going to be 1.5 million short. Okay, so the first thing would be is, of course, we're going to be letting the board know every month, so there'll be no surprise. But if it came down to that, then the first option would be is we would look at what other things we could do to make through the cash flow. If ultimately we needed, we would come back and need to pass another supplemental borrowing and issue another 1.5 million. Most likely, probably like O&M bonds.
you can anticipate O&M, transportation as well.
That's not going to trip a covenant.
No, no, it's completely different fund of money, anticipating a different tax levy.
And I remember the last meeting you said you thought we had a couple of levers that we could pull if necessary, if that ever became necessary, we would hopefully be able to avoid additional borrowing if the land sale did spill into the next fiscal year.
And I'm not saying it is, I'm just,
No, that's
right.
Looking down the road.
It's a good one, it's an hour.
Right, exactly.
Just because I'll sleep better, is it possible for you to share the 25-page covenant?
Oh, sure.
Consider this evening.
Late night reading for you?
I'll sleep better.
Yeah, Brad has a hard copy of it, but it's also in his email, and, I'm happy to circulate it, or Brad can circulate it to the board.
Do we, from a competitive standpoint, did we look at other banks and other
We did.
municipalities?
We looked at other banks, other municipalities, and the going interest rate for banks that we spoke with. A couple were not able to lend, even if any discussions of the amount would have come into play. The rates were into the twos. With the other municipality, I believe, Brad, it was 1.8. The one that we found would have had the volume to help us was 1.85 to
2.1.
to 2.1. So this rate was much more competitive, and then the availability of all funds at one spot. This was the only source.
Does having all funds at one spot cut down on transaction costs?
It certainly helps with transaction costs. The biggest thing, though, it helps with is by working with one lender, we're now able to draw as we need. The problem when we have multiple vendors and we've lined them up, now we have multiple expectations, and so now the lender has given us a set rate for a set dollar amount, and then all of a sudden we come back and say, oh, we're only going to need a smaller amount of that. And so you would have to have the cooperation of all those different lenders. It just becomes a lot more difficult. Our goal here is the 27 million is on the very high of the upside. We're hoping to move through with a lot less and reduce our expense to the district. So that's the real cost savings with having one lender, is drawing only as we need.
And I did want to just mention to Mr. Kirking, you're not familiar with these tax covenants because they're IRS tax covenants for tax exempt purposes. So last year, having issued the warrants on a taxable basis, there was no need for these covenants. But the IRS has to, make sure that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed That's where we come up with all the covenants, so that's why it's different from last year.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Sure.
Brad, one final question for me anyway. What rate did you use in the budget regarding tax anticipation line?
I think I probably used, I know, now I think about it, I used the 1.85. I mean,
85?
yes, I just figured we'd be about the same when I was preparing the budget.
Not that I'm interested, but do we know what the rate would be for a variable rate? Do we get?
Honestly, given the experience that we had experienced, we did not discuss a variable rate with them. We saw a 75 basis point increase on our current TAWs, so it seemed prudent to work to lock that in. So that was not explored.
Anybody else? The motion is correct.
Yes.
If no further questions, we'll open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. The vote is unanimous. The motion is passed.
Now that it's passed, thank you, Vice Miller, for doing the work. And
My
making
pleasure.
this tax. Now, Brad, for all your effort, shopping this around. I mean, that's 110 basis points, 27 million, average 13 million. That's real money. So, right. Thank you, everyone, for your efforts.
And we are happy to discuss anything at any time. Just give us a call.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott, for you getting out in front of this so that we had the time to do everything. All right, next is the First Amendment to the sales agreement.
Just quickly, I had shared this with the board earlier. Actually, I believe we just received this Tuesday this week. Request from Woodman's to include a First Amendment to our sale agreement for the vacant land. A due diligence period extension would be extended until July 5th and expire July 5th, 2018. I'm sorry, January 5th, 2018. January 5th, 2018. There would be no other changes to the original agreement. What it comes down to is the title and survey. They've received the title and survey. They've noted their concerns. They have to negotiate a new easement with the pipeline company so that the entire site is no longer covered by a blanket pipeline easement. They're also waiting to hear from the Army Corps of Engineers to determine whether or not they are going to assert jurisdiction over the project. And then there are also floodplain issues with the building footprint and outlot. Our attorney and myself were not surprised by this extension. I'm optimistic that the extension is only until January 5th. We'll see how much of this they can get answered in the next 3 months, 4 months, and then we'll see where we go from there. At this point, it would be my recommendation to accept this. If we have to move into 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, then it would be my recommendation that we go back and discuss additional earnest money to determine where they would be. But I think to ask for another short period of time, I think it would be reasonable to grant that request.
Do we know when they're expecting to hear from the Army Corps of Engineers?
We do not. They continue to be in communication. We need to see.
Does our attorney say this is reasonable or expected? Or?
Yes, Mr. Clark, I thought this is very reasonable, giving the total scope of what we're looking at, very reasonable. They have yet to mention or have any discussions with tax abatements, tax incentives. So we see this as a positive that the 3 things that they're listing that they need time for are understandable given that piece of property.
Time of the year, you're not going to be digging in January. So that's a little bit of a rain delay. But to Scott's point, these are real things associated with the land. Any other questions? Pardon?
They all seem reasonable to me.
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion to accept First Amendment as presented.
So moved.
Is a motion, second?
Second.
Okay, any other questions? If not, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. The vote is unanimous. The motion passed.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our informational item. Report of the Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting held September 26, 2017.
I attended that meeting. The good news is the state has found our co-op 843 $760,000 to be spread out over the calendar year. They've received 5 payments already. They're going to be divided up into 22 payments. On Tuesday, we're going to decide whether the money gets distributed back to the member districts monthly, quarterly, or at the true-up. And it's looking more like the business managers are kind of leaning towards the true-up. The bottom line is we're going to get the money. We just need to decide how we're going to give it and when we're going to give it. But it's moving along really well. Money we didn't expect, money that wasn't in the budget, so we're pretty excited about it. That pretty much concludes my report.
Any questions for Ron? Thanks, Ron.
Sure.
Next, FOIA requests.
FOIA request was included in your backup materials for your review. We had a total of 19 FOIAs from September 7th to October 11th. Concludes my report.
Questions regarding the FOIA request? District 210 Advisory.
Dr. Mahalik or Mrs. Doyle? Doyle, go ahead if you want to give us an overview.
So we had a longer than anticipated meeting, which was interesting. No, it went well. It was a lot of good discussion, and we had a bunch of new members that were not able to make it to the first one, so that was nice to hear from them. Really, in summation of what we focused on, we moved past the lanyard discussion. I think we're done with that for the IDs. That was one of the topics that we had explored and discussed. And I think we concluded that we were no longer going to discuss this and that we were going to leave the policy as is. The discussion that really kind of involved everyone in the room was about the activity fees. And realistically, moving forward with this fee, we need to look at specific sport breakdowns, how much each sport costs, look at each of the transportation, look at the different stipends, things like that. And then the other topic that they were very interested in talking about was fundraising. Where does the fundraising money go? People would like to know specifically. So we're going to request, I told Beth that I would send an email to him with our specific requests as to what we would like the breakdowns to look like.
And we have the fall sports concluding right now. So we'll be between their activity accounts and the general ledger, be starting to put those together.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like anyone's against fees. We would just like to, maybe see if we need to move into like a tiered system or look at what maybe some of these activities don't need a fee and kind of just move forward from there. But definitely more investigation is needed.
Yep, we'll have those for you.
Any questions for Beth? All right, thanks, Beth. Building and grounds report.
Included in your backup materials is building and grounds report. If you have any questions, we can get those to Mr. Wilkie.
Does anyone have any questions of the materials provided? Okay, good. Next is community relations report.
Community relations, once again, included in your backup material for your review. You can review that at your own leisure.
Thank you. Next, asset of the month.
Asset of the month for November, hard to believe, we're already in November. Service to others, young person makes service to others a core value at home, be a role model to your children by serving others at school. Include service learning as part of your regular school curriculum, and I think we do a very good job of that. In the community, create and publicize service opportunities for youth and families.
Thank you. Superintendent district report.
Pride sheet is available for your review. I'll let you review that in your own time as well. A couple of updates. Independent Inspector General update. There have been no complaints investigated by the Inspector General up until this point. The total cost so far is just over $1,000. That cost dealt with the policy, the completion of the policy, and then all of the reporting mechanisms that have been put in place. And so that was working with their programmers on their end to make sure we had the emails set up, the links set up on our website. So everything is going well right there. We've tested it out, and everything is in place. In terms of our strategic planning, our 5-year strategic plan review is coming up. Bob Madonia is scheduled to be at the December 14th board meeting. We will have that meeting at East in room 236. We've already posted that notice.
We have,
Okay.
6 o'clock.
So that notice has been, that change has been posted, 6 o'clock. We will have the normal board meeting, and then at 7 o'clock, plan to move into strategic planning. Dr. Madonia will be down in November, meeting with members of my administration to help prepare for that evening. We'll be able to provide a review with every group and then kind of set a course of action for the upcoming year. I think, I know there was some apprehension last year when we started this project, but I thought it was very beneficial and very positive. And so we will be sending out the save the dates and then getting the invitations back to those community members who participated last year. Enrollment updates, October 13th was the official enrollment. We've received all feeder district numbers except for one. As soon as we receive those, we'll bring those back to the board and we'll discuss enrollment projections with the board in November. And then big event this Saturday, competition Bands of America. Our marching band will be competing in Indianapolis. I was able to get out last night and see the complete show here at Lincoln Way Central. Looks fantastic. They've put an incredible amount of work into this. So they will compete in prelims, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then hopefully make it to the finals Saturday evening. That concludes my report.
Indianapolis, correct?
In Indianapolis, correct.
Same marching band.
Same marching band will go to the Rose Bowl. Yes, 15 months from now.
I have a quick question before we leave you. Inspector General, at one point you talked about there was going to be training for personnel that would be,
That's the next, so no, here's what we had discussion with, and I think this is a potential engagement with Sickage, is now that we've completed our audit, the audit report will be presented in November at the board meeting. They also specialize in internal controls and risk management. And so at that point, I think it would be prudent for us to have discussions and an engagement with them moving forward as we have internal controls in place and now we're putting the larger pieces together. It might be prudent to bring them in to help check some of those controls and be a part of that. Those are discussions that did take place. And so that's something that would be up to the board, but we would get pricing from Sickage, bring it back to the board, get an outline of exactly what they can do for us. And I think that would then help our audits moving forward. Chris, something to add to that? I know that was a conversation that we had on the building and finding it, so. Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you. Other district business.
Under informational items, I placed on there, I had been asked to put together a potential responsible bidder ordinance. So I included this under other district business. I would ask the board to take time to review this, bring some feedback back. I would think November we'll have another batch of policies from press. We can include this in the first reading for discussion. We have, we follow all the laws and ordinance regarding bidders. This would be something in addition. This is similar to what you see with the city of Joliet, with Joliet Junior College. So it's just something for the board to discuss as we move into the bidding season of likely February and March. This would give us November and December to have some discussion and determine whether or not the board was in favor of utilizing such a tool. I would need to do some more due diligence with our attorneys, but this is a starting point for at least review of the board and then any questions, concerns moving forward.
So these are additional requirements?
Yeah.
They would. Now we already basically cover 1 through 5 It would be number 6 for construction projects over $25,000. The bidder must provide an apprenticeship and training program that is registered with the Department of Labor Bureau of Apprenticeship and Training or is reasonably equivalent to such programs. So what I would want to do is get an opinion, obviously, legally this is legal, we would get an opinion from John Izzo, but I would also want an opinion from our architects in terms of what would this potentially do to cost. The other thing we put in here, in the event of tie bids, preference would be given to persons or firms located within the confines of the high school district, which I think is reasonable to have that outlined. And so that would be an addition that we don't currently have in place. But it's up there for board review. If you have any questions, feel free. And then I will get opinions from architects and Mr. Izzo and bring it back with a batch of first readings for discussion in November if there are no, if there's no opposition to that.
First reading in November, potentially approved in December. Bids normally would go out.
Probably going to go bids February this year, Brad. That's our plan, is to get going in February. Be the first step.
Okay.
Good. No.
Before we leave other district business, I want to take a moment and recognize and congratulate the foundation on hiring of Bob Kennedy as their executive director. I think that was a good move, in my personal opinion. I think Bob has served the district well in multiple facets, and he's a great asset in the community, so I applaud that and wish Bob the best in that role. If not, I would entertain a motion to move into closed session. The board may enter into closed session for any of the following below reasons: employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, collective bargaining, and litigation. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.